Hey everybody, it's Dana. Today we're going to play around with some craft paper. I don't use this paper very often, so I thought that we would do a little bit of painting with pigment ink. Let's get started. So right here I'm going to use this Hero Arts pigment ink. I really love the bright white of this pigment ink, and we're also going to be using some Hero Arts shadow ink. This one's bubblegum, and a very fine paint brush. So to get started, I've already picked a little flower from the W+9 Love Mom stamp set. Love, love, love this cute stamp set. So we're going to use the flower to make kind of a pattern across our paper. So I'm just going to randomly stamp on this cardstock. And kind of what I like about the craft cardstock, one is like the natural feel to it, but two, it also gives a slight difference in the color of your ink that you're using. And again, that really does depend on the kind of craft cardstock you're using. Sometimes your ink might come out a little darker. Sometimes the color might seem a little off. So really you just have to practice with it. All right, I'm going to save the bottom part for a sentiment, so I don't want to go too far down. I'm just going to make a couple rows, and as you can see, I'm just kind of spacing the flowers out in a random kind of design. I'm not being too fancy with this because it's a very natural looking card. I love all those flower clusters. All right, so I'm just going to clean off my stamp real quick and close up my ink pad. And next I'm going to bring in the unicorn ink. I'm going to grab my thin paintbrush and a baby wipe, and I'm just going to go ahead and start adding some of that ink to my paintbrush. Just going to get a little bit more, and I'm just going to go around to give a light shadow. Okay, I have something on my paintbrush. I think I used it before for glue, so let me just clean that off and add a little bit more ink. All right, and now, like I said, I'm just going to do a light shadow around the flower, just like a little accent. And I like it in white because it gives like a nice contrast from the pink and the neutralness of the craft cardstock. I hope that makes sense when I say that to you. It just gives a really nice pop of freshness, let's say. Yeah, that's a good word. A pop of freshness around the flowers. So I'm not going to have you sit here and watch me do all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and speed the video up a little bit. Now, it came to me, I guess, a while back that, hey, I'm going to try to paint with pigment ink. Let's just see what happens. And actually, I love the effect of it. Again, usually I'm going to just be using a thin paintbrush to do it. But you know what? I might do a tutorial with a thicker paintbrush just to see how it comes out. All right, so that is how it came out. See, it just gives a nice pop of freshness behind those flowers. All right, next what we're going to go ahead and do is, let me just soak that paintbrush real quick so I'm not staining that out with the ink. I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab the sentiment, love you. I already know who I'm going to be sending this card to, and I want it to be special because I love her. I'm going to use some Versamark ink. And I'm also going to use my embossing powder to, I don't know what the name of this is. I always get stumped on this, but it's like powder. And it makes your embossing powder not stick. I'll have the link in the comment below. I don't know why every time I use this thing, I forget the name of it. All right, so I'm just going to place my sentiment down. As I said, I'm going to do it towards the bottom so there's not a whole bunch of flowers around. And I'm just going to line it up. I need to grab my stamp press. Just slide that over just a tad bit to make sure it's all on the card. And I decided I probably should have grabbed my Misty on this, but that's okay. We're going to go with the flow. I'm going to grab my Versamark. And as you all know, Versamark is just clear ink, and it's great to adhere your embossing powders to. Dab a good amount on that so I get a good impression the first time. Go ahead and line up my card a little bit. And I'm sorry because I realized after I had finished the video that I kind of slid myself kind of catty-cornered on my desk. Yeah, I really wasn't paying attention because I was so into making the card. All right, as you can see, it's kind of like a watermark. That's what Versamark ink does for you. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my coffee filter to collect all of my embossing powder. And I'm going to use the Wow embossing powder. This is a very opaque white, and it's very bright white embossing powder. This is probably one of my favorite embossing powders out of all of the ones I have. I believe this one is, if not the easiest that I find to use, and the brightest. All right, so we're going to close that up. I'm just going to wipe some of that embossing powder out of the way so I don't end up heating it onto my craft mat. I'm going to go ahead and start my heat gun off to the side a little bit before I put it to my card so I can get it warmed up. And I also heat from the back and then back onto the front. It kind of makes it easier to melt the embossing powder, and it doesn't warp your cardstock as much. All right, so I have that done. See how nice and white that is? Now I'm thinking, maybe I do want to add some flowers across the bottom. Now I'm kind of thinking that Love You seems a little bit lonely. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more flowers. Again, just randomly across the bottom. And as you can see, do you see how the shadow ink actually is lighter on the flowers above? Because it's kind of settled into that cardstock. So it kind of changed from the vibrancy that you see the new flowers, and it kind of dulls itself down a little bit, and more of a softer look. But that's okay. It's just, I believe it's probably just from the material of the craft ink compared to maybe white cardstock. And again, like I said, it's settled down. So I'm not going to show you guys the whole painting process all over again. So that's what I came up with at the end, and I'm really liking that. Because, like I said, the little I love you seems so lonely at the bottom of the card. Now I'm going to grab my white Uniball pen, and I'm going to start off on my hand just so I can get some heat to the point. And that was a tip I learned from watching a couple YouTube videos, and especially at the Daily Marker. Kathy does that a lot to get the heat going on her pen so it doesn't skip when you're starting to write with it. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and finish up making my faux stitching. Really cute and simple card, right? And as you can see, those shadow inks really mellowed out on that craft cardstock. All right, I'm just going to adhere this to a craft card base. And the reason I just didn't do it all in one is that I was afraid that my card front would buckle a little bit. So that's why I decided to do it separately onto its own card panel. And I'm just going to throw some adhesive on the back of it and gently line this up as perfectly as I can. I'm going to use my fingers to help me kind of line everything up. Just get that corner down. All right, and there we have it. An easy peasy card with outlining with your pigment inks. You can use your pigment inks in a variety of ways. I will see you guys soon, but until then, go forth and be crafty. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you liked the video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss anything. You can also check me out on all my social media links right here. I will see you guys soon. Have a great day. Take care.